Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources. Updating daily at 6 a.m. New York.
Washington Post World.
September 8, 5:04 America, New York. U.S. approves up to $675 million in further military aid to Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says President Joe Biden has approved additional military aid to Ukraine worth up to $675 million.
New York Times World News.
September 8, 5 o'clock America, New York. Climate change could worsen supply chain turmoil. A drought that has crippled economic activity in southwestern China hints at the kind of disruption that climate change could wreak on global supply chains. A drought in China has had ripple effects for businesses around the globe.
Washington Post World.
September 8, 4:52 America, New York. Chinese man trapped aloft in hydrogen balloon for 2 days. Chinese state media say a man has been found safe after he spent 2 days aloft in a hydrogen balloon, traveling about 320 kilometers, 200 miles, after it became untethered and flew away while he was using it to harvest pine nuts from a tree.
The Washington Times stories. Advocacy.
September 8, 4:50 America, New York. U.S. approves up to $675 million in further military aid to Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says President Biden has approved additional military aid to Ukraine worth up to $675 million. BBC News World.
September 8, 4:33 America, New York. Afghan twins, 11, reunited in London a year after Kabul rescue. Obaidullah Jabarkel had been stranded in France before his visa was sorted out by the Home Office.
BBC News World.
September 8, 4:24 America, New York. Marshall Islands. Chinese pair plotted mini-state in Pacific nation. U.S. prosecutors say the duo bribed Marshall Island MPs to try and create a semi-autonomous region.
BBC News World.
September 8, 4:10 America, New York. Australia passes major new climate bill. The new target brings one of the world's biggest emitters more in line with allies.
RT World News.
September 8, 3:53 America, New York. British zoos face closure amid energy crisis. There are fears that some animals may have to be euthanized, as the cost of their upkeep surges. As Britain's hospitality industry warns that a fifth of businesses could go under due to skyrocketing energy prices, zoos across the country are facing closure as the cost of maintaining animal enclosures becomes unsustainable.
Washington Post World. September 8, 3:51 America, New York. Explosive detonates at Hezbollah-backed minister's home. A bomb has detonated outside of a Hezbollah-backed Lebanese minister's home in the eastern Bekaa Valley.
New York Times World News.
September 8, 3:31 America, New York. Fire at a karaoke bar in Vietnam kills 33. An electrical problem set off the latest in a string of fatal blazes at entertainment venues in the country. A fatal fire started on the second floor of An Phu Karaoke in Binh Duong Province, Vietnam. Time.
September 8, 3:29 America, New York. COVID rules are hindering earthquake rescue work in China. Rescue work after China's most recent earthquake has been hindered by the country's slavish adherence to a COVID-zero strategy, sparking protests and adding another layer of stress for residents and emergency personnel in the region that has already suffered dozens of deaths.
New York Times World News.
September 8, 3:05 America, New York. Solomon Islands leader, a friend of China, gets an election delayed. The Prime Minister claims the country can't afford to hold national elections next year. His opponents see a power grab linked to Beijing's influence. Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare of the Solomon Islands in 2019. Time.
September 8, 2:03 America, New York. The Philippines will no longer require mask wearing outdoors. Manila, Philippines. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved a recommendation to end the mandatory wearing of face masks outdoors across the country more than 2 years after it was imposed at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, top officials said Wednesday.
Mirror World News. September 8, 1:10 America, New York. Family pet, sadistically butchered, as cops launch probe into horror killing. A family who found their cat slaughtered and hung up in a woods in a menacing, threatening attack have now warned that its psychopath killer will strike again unless something is done. RT World News.
September 8, 055 America New York. China says U.S. is militarizing space. The U.S. military is attempting to turn outer space into a battlefield, China's foreign ministry said.
Mirror World News.
September 8, 012 America New York. Tourist slapped with fine for eating gelato and drinking beer near Rome Fountain. The incident happened on Saturday morning at around 1 a.m. when the American was approached by police and was asked to move from his position at the Fontana dei Catechumeni, but he refused.
RT World News.
September 8, 012 America New York. Las Vegas official arrested for journalist stabbing. The Democrat county administrator was brought into custody after a SWAT raid on his home. A Democratic administrator in the Las Vegas, Nevada area has been arrested for the fatal stabbing of a local investigative journalist, who had published critical reports about the elected official prior to his murder last week.